Hi. I don't usually review phones or go over phones, besides that one shootout I did between the Samsung S7 and the Moto G4. The reason I don't go over phones is because I just kind of find it boring. I don't see the point in having a free market for smartphones when every company is releasing the exact same thing and copying and pasting each other's design. Every company has a smartphone that's shaped like a rectangle. Every company is taking away the headphone jack. Every company is sealing in the battery, which is always the same 2800 to 3400 milliamp hours, give or take 10% with certain exceptions. Every company is deciding to make the screen go all the way to the edge, no bezel, so that it's easier to crack if you drop it on the floor. Most companies are using virtually the same operating system with very similar skins, and it's like the same thing over and over again. Little minor differences, but for the most part, boring. All looks the same to me. So one of the things that I like about Energizer here is they've decided to make a product that is unique, that is different from what everyone else is offering. There's actually a reason for me to look at Energizer versus every other company, because they're putting something out that not every other company is. If you want a phone that's going to allow you to watch YouTube videos with the screen on all day because you got a boring job or a long commute and you want to be able to switch back and forth between videos because there's a news event happening or something and you want to keep up with it, that's something that's going to drain the battery of a normal phone, or if you want to play games or whatever it is you're doing with the phone. And this is a phone where you could probably have it going like that for several days and be just fine. They're the only company that appears to be offering a phone with something better than the standard 2800 to 3400 milliamp hours or 4000 milliamp hour battery. And I think that that's respectable that they've decided, since it's a free market and since there are about 10 or 15 companies all making the same thing, we're going to make something a little different. So good on Energizer for that. And this is one of those phones that I really wanted to like, I really wanted to buy, regardless of whether it looks silly or like a Game Boy. Again, a lot of people are criticizing it, saying this thing is too thick, nobody's going to want this. But again, this is not for people that would want a phone from the other 15 companies. This is for people who want a phone that is, that has a battery, that are willing to deal with the trade-offs. The issue that I have here is that this phone reveals what I've been talking about in older videos, which is that I think a lot of modern smartphone companies are gaslighting their user base when they explain to them why it is they're scaling back features or functionality within their phones. So what do I mean by that? In order to explain that, I need to go back to something like the Samsung S5. So this phone came out about 5 years ago. It is a thin phone. It may not be the thinnest phone out there, but it's slim. It's a slim phone. It's a liquid-resistant phone, it has a removable battery, and it has a headphone jack. Now, there are two excuses that are used for removing two of the most looked-after features in these modern phones, which is the headphone jack and the user-removable battery. People like having a user-removable battery for two reasons. A, if your battery runs out throughout the day, you can swap it easily without charging, but much more importantly than that, is that when the phone gets to be a year and a half old, you don't have to deal with it running slow or dying much quicker. You can just pop in a new battery. There's this pain point when it comes to replacing a battery in a modern smartphone because you have to have a hot plate or a heat gun and you have to have adhesive to put it all back together. It makes it a pain in the ass. It's a much bigger pain in the ass than just removing the back of the phone and plugging a new battery in. So that makes a pain point that makes it likely that somebody's going to upgrade their phone. How convenient. And this phone manages to keep liquid resistance while having a user-removable battery. One of the excuses that's often given for why it is we need to get rid of the user-removable battery is so that you can get liquid resistance on the phone. Even though this phone happens to be IP67, and it's IP67 with a user-removable battery. How quickly most people forget that Samsung made the S5 and that it was liquid resistant. The second excuse that gets used very often is that we need to axe the headphone jack because axing the headphone jack allows us to make the phone even slimmer and to fit more cool stuff into it. And, we can't fit cool stuff into the phone or make it thinner or nicer looking if we have to make space for this silly, obsolete headphone jack. And one of the things that just blows this out of the water for me is you have to look at the size of this Energizer phone. Not only does this phone have a sealed-in battery with zero liquid resistance over here. So this article at Android Police says the phone also lacks water resistance, so you better keep it dry to avoid electrocution, which reinforces the complete lack of IP67 or IP68 specification for it I could find anywhere online. It also has no headphone jack. And if it had no headphone jack and it was the thinnest phone on the market, I'm not saying I would be happy with it, but I would understand it. But you've created a phone that's thicker or close to as thick as my 1989 Game Boy. And when you have a phone that's about as thick as my 1989 Game Boy, in my opinion, you can't use the excuse anymore that we ran out of space for the headphone jack. I have Bluetooth cables for my MMCX Shure headphones. But what if I wanted to use Idiomatic headphones? What if I wanted to use Idiomatic because they sound good, but the company are dicks? If you're listening to this Idiomatic, you kind of being dicks with this, where you use proprietary MMCX connectors so that I can't just buy a Bluetooth cable and plug it in and use Bluetooth. What if I wanted to use my Grotto headphones when I get home, but I don't feel like changing the player and setting it up again so that I have something with a headphone jack? I'm kind of screwed there, and that sucks. There are reasons that people would want a headphone jack in the phone, and when you make a phone that is this big and you take away the headphone jack, you are telling the world that we were making this crap up when we were saying the reason we got rid of the headphone jack is to make it thinner. Just be honest. We wanted to save some money. We were lazy. We didn't feel like engineering that part of the circuit. It's okay. We'll understand. People will probably buy it anyway. But it would be nice if many of these companies would be honest. When it comes to liquid resistance, just be honest. You want to make the thing slimmer. You want to make the phone, 1 micron of a millimeter thinner so that the tech reviewers and the tech YouTubers that you rely on to promote the phone so that it can sell better based on it having a slimmer bezel and less thinness, oh my God, will like your phone more so that you can get more sales. Like, just be honest about it. Don't make things up like saying you need the phone to be sealed to make it liquid resistant when you have so many phones coming out now that are not liquid resistant, but the battery is sealed into them. Because it's not true. And all you need to do is look back to a phone like the Samsung S5, which is thin but has a headphone jack and has a user-removable battery but keeps liquid resistance, to realize that many of these companies are full of horse manure. And that's what I saw with this Energizer phone. Because when I read the specs of it, it was one thing that it's not liquid resistant, but really you have a phone that's this big and you can't fit a headphone jack into it. You've confirmed what many people had suspected all along, which is that many of these cell phone providers, many of the cell phone manufacturers are gaslighting their audience. And sadly, their audience is more than happy to continue to spend their money buying phones with incremental differences. As I've said in the beginning of the video, the smartphone market to me is very, very boring. No company has come out with something with an oh my God feature that makes it just stand out from everybody else. It's an incrementally better camera, or an incrementally slightly smaller bezel, or an incremental difference in the interface, or an incremental difference in how fast it charges. But for the most part, these phones appear to be mostly the same. Same operating system, same hardware. Boring. And it would be really nice to see companies do something different to set themselves apart in some small way. And I think that this would be a great way to do it. Just a throwback. Come up with something where you have a micro SD card slot, and you have a headphone jack, and you have a user-removable battery, and it's liquid-proof, and it's thin. Somebody may buy that. Just say, hey, we're putting something out there where we're just not coming up with arbitrary limitations. And I think that would be cool. I was really close to wanting this phone because I'm one of those people that will listen to podcasts, that will do customer service from the phone, that will be balancing all different types of conversations and work, answering fresh desk tickets, updating my website, all the stuff from the phone, and I kill my battery really easily. But am I going to pay top dollar for something that not only does not have liquid resistance with a sealed battery, so I have to open the thing up and torture myself getting inside of it, but also doesn't even have a headphone jack when it's bigger than my pocket? Hell no. If I buy this phone, I'm admitting to myself that I'm an idiot. And I'd rather not do that. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. I am pretty interested. And I'll see you in the next video. So thanks for watching.